Chris, my good friend, welcome back on the Way Champions podcast.
Good to be with you again, John. Thanks for having me.
It's great to see your face and catch up. We got to catch up via phone the other day for a little bit, but I was thinking as I was getting ready for this, and the last time you were on the podcast here, you're still the coach of New York Red Bulls, so there's a lot of water under the bridge since then. You've been on quite
Yeah,
the coaching
listen,
odyssey.
thankfully, honestly, thankfully, I've been given opportunity. Always try to take one, help myself get better for the next one, and it's been some really interesting experiences along the way.
Yeah, well, what I'd love to do today is give people some insight into the journey of a professional coach, especially in soccer, especially in football, where it's like, it's such a, it's such a quick to fire business. And we're starting to see this even in other sports, college football right now. How many coaches have been fired halfway through the season? Like, that's gonna fix the underlying thing or whatever. But man, I mean, what a journey you've been on. And just want to start like ever since I've known you, you've been such a guy who's sort of looks at the positive, you're the cup half full guy, right? So even when, hard things have happened to you, I remember when you missed the Olympics in 2000, you were like, yeah, but I never thought I'd be there anyway. So grateful to have a shot, you know? Dude, is that something you've always had, just this optimistic outlook?
Listen, I was brought up in a household with really supportive parents, loving parents, but parents that helped us see it that way, the glass half full, to always be grateful for what you had, that nothing's guaranteed. My father would say all the time, you have to earn it, and nobody owes you anything. And this was always the message, and this was our truth. And my father, crazy enough, people who know him knows how positive he is, but he would say, some people say when the cup is halfway,
Hmm.
that it's full or empty. He goes, when my cup is empty, it's full, which
Hmm.
that's an incredible way. But he would always find shade when the sun is blasting, and he'd always find some spot. So yeah, look, it started when I was born in the house that I grew up. But quite honestly, when it was the Olympics, when I missed out on the World Cup twice, ACL injury twice, 98, I actually 2002 and '06. It's I was living a dream, and lots of people don't get to experience being a college athlete, let alone a professional athlete, let alone wearing the red, white, and blue and represent your country. So imagine, of course, there's always a you feel bad for yourself for a bit. We're human. However, if it's poor me, this stuff doesn't really work for me, and it doesn't work, I think, to help you move on. So I always just was grateful. And of
Yeah.
course, it just hurts. Like, yeah, if I say missed the Olympics and the World Cup, it hurts, and I have to live with that.
Mhm.
But I always go back to how much many things I have, not that I don't have.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was so happy for you this year when you were elected to the Hall of Fame because I always thought that it was maybe because you had missed those two World Cups, that was the one thing not on your resume, in spite of all the games, in spite of captaining the team, U.S. Soccer Player of the Year. Was that a shock? Because you'd been close before but didn't get in.
Yeah, yeah. Years ago. I mean, I'm probably off by years, but maybe 15 years ago, me and Joe Max Moore, I believe, um, were tied on the ballot to get into
Mhm.
the Hall of Fame. And I,
Mhm.
I believe they did a re-vote, and
Mhm.
I missed out on that. And I mean, I missed out on it to a legend, Joe Max Moore. And
Mhm.
I can accept that, right? But
Mhm.
I was considered at that stage to be in the Hall of Fame. To imagine I think you just really want to be mentioned in that light among
Mhm.
the greatest in the country.
Mhm.
So when it came back around again, and I had seen someone might send me a screenshot or something of, oh, the ballot's out again. And I'm like,
Mhm.
listen, I know I'm on it. I don't know how that works exactly, but I'm not sure I'm going to get in, because I mean, who says it's an automatic? Again, I've missed out on a couple of World Cups,
Mhm.
accomplished a lot in the country and MLS with the national team, but it was a big surprise. And the Colorado Rapids, where I was working at the time,
Yeah.
put on a big reveal for me. I was so honored. And it feels like partly for myself, but mainly for my family, for
Yeah.
everyone to experience this moment in my life, in my career.
Yeah, yeah, I remember because your boys were there and everything, and your wife
Yeah.
Justine, and that was pretty cool. But of course, like in everything in your career, nothing could go smooth. So like you go to the Hall of Fame, and then your flight gets canceled, and you miss a game to coach. Like it's like
Yeah, listen,
nothing could be as it's supposed to be, right?
it's everything. I at one stage wasn't going to go to the ceremony because I had a game.
Yeah,
Uh, but the club worked with me to just get the flights arranged, to have a car ready to pick me up. I had it planned. Um, it would have had to take a big delay of some sort for me to miss it. And I said, all right, it's worth it. We haven't had any delays this year. It's going to work out. And we pulled out on the runway. Yeah, and it we pulled out. The plane had to turn back around, and actually, I was in Texas. It was Dallas,
yeah,
where the ceremony was for the Hall of Fame. Plane pulls out, stops on the runway, has to come back. There's some communication issues in the cockpit. They had to change the plane. Blah blah. Fast forward, it was never going to work out. I went back to the hotel and just worked the game from the hotel. So I
yeah,
just
yeah.
had a working station communicating with my staff from the hotel. The worst part was that we lost the game. And yeah, so this one hurt, honestly.
It's just like, of course, that's what happened, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, before we get into these last couple of years in Colorado, I just, you and I got together a couple of years ago on Long Island and, had a cup of coffee and we were chatting about sort of what's next. And, you're like, I don't know. And I came back out here to Oregon and you were there. And 5 days later, I see a thing, Chris Armas, assistant coach, Manchester United.
yeah.
And I'm like,
You imagine?
where did that come from? And 5 days before, like it wasn't like you kept it from me in the conversation. You had no idea. Talk about that, like to go to arguably the biggest club in the world.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting in life, at least my life. When things happen, and maybe anyone's life, and when tough things happen, it's sometimes so difficult in that moment because you don't know what's ahead.
Hmm.
But oftentimes you have to go here before you can get there.
Hmm.
So I'm at a place now where I'm not. It's more of a place of gratitude, and something else is coming when things do come. So earlier that year, I was coaching in Toronto. It's during the pandemic. It's COVID. It's a strange period of time, but I thought I'd be in Toronto for 3 years, and I
Yeah.
got fired after 10 games. I think
Right. And you
we
guys
had
were like
played no,
living in a bubble in
we're living in a bubble. Yeah, it was so
Florida.
challenging,
Yeah.
but where there's certain challenges. COVID, the bubble, no home games. I might be the only coach in history to get let go before any home games. But listen, a decision was made. Um, and it was really a rebuild for Toronto FC. But I didn't see that through. But anyhow, in the moment it just didn't make sense, right? I have a 3-year contract. We have so many things that are working against us. However, my father was sick at the time with
Uh-huh.
esophageal cancer,
Mhm.
and he might have had at that stage maybe a year, whatever, it's borrowed time, stage 4 cancer. And I got to spend the next, it might have been 6 months, going to every chemotherapy treatment with him, meeting him. He was driving from Eastern Long Island. I'm in the other part of Long Island, Western Long Island. And we'd meet her at the first appointment available, have coffee in the car. The most positive guy in the world, even through cancer, he'd
Mhm.
make some muffins in the morning. Where it was amazing.
Mhm.
And I stayed with him for the few hours. And I wouldn't trade that time in for anything. Could you imagine? So that one might have been enough to say, okay, the job, it's not worth it at this moment.
Mhm.
But in I think it was me and my wife were ready to put up the Christmas tree at the end of that year. It might have been end of
Yeah, it was like right before Thanksgiving or right around
yeah,
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
and the phone rings and it's Ralph Rangnick.
Yeah.
And we had agreed, you know what? The Toronto thing ended. My father's going through this. He's how much longer does he have? Let's just take the next year. We're not going anywhere. And we hugged and we loved it. We said, we're planting the roots here. I promise you. The phone rang. I shut the door somewhere else. And I said, I came back and I said, "Hun, you will never believe this." But anyhow, Ralph Rangnick
Yeah.
calls me, who at the time when I was working at for the New York Red Bulls as a head coach, Ralph Rangnick was a global sporting director for all the Red Bull Global, and he
Mhm.
got to know me as a coach, got to know me as a human being along the way as he oversaw all the teams, and I was
Mhm.
one of them. And he had been named, an interim manager at Manchester United, and he
Mhm.
was looking for an assistant coach. So he calls me and says, "Chris, I couldn't believe it. I mean, you see Ralph Rangnick on the phone ring, okay?" And I picked up. He says, "Chris, I'm looking for some help here. I would love for you to come join me in Manchester." And I couldn't believe it. And I actually said, "All right, listen, Ralph. I mean, when do you need to know? Can I call you back?" I my son Christopher starts yelling at me after. "What do you mean you'll call him back? Tell him right. What are you, crazy?" So I call him back in a little bit because listen, I run it by the boss, my wife, and yeah, I mean, a few minutes later, I'm arranging to head to Manchester.
Yeah.
So I mean, incredible, heaven sent. Honestly, like for me, what an opportunity. I'm not so sure, guys. Like the American, an American. Like it just doesn't seem like the place we ought to be at that stage. And maybe I don't know. It felt like a week later, I'm at Carrington. We're running
Mhm.
training sessions.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean that, and I mean I couldn't believe it. And we're still in sort of the COVID aftermath, and you have to go in quarantine to travel internationally and all that. Was that hard, like to call your dad and be like, "Dad, I got this opportunity," because knowing Phil, your dad, he's like, "Of course you're going to Manchester."
Yeah, I took the Toronto job
Hmm.
knowing this is going to give my dad a reason to live.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it wasn't the reason I took it, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew this was going to be all right, Dad. Listen, you can drive up there and you can spend some time in Toronto. Like, we knew for sure, like, he'd be part of that journey. But I know as a parent myself, what living through your kids at times and what they do, their goals, their success is your success.
Hmm.
So anything that I could have given my dad a reason to look forward to the next day, honestly. So
Hmm.
when I told him about Manchester, I mean, it was he just couldn't believe it. So
Yeah.
it was going to be a little challenging and part sad because I was moving across the pond, But
Right.
again, where given my dad, I mean, we knew he probably would live for a few more months
Yeah.
that he could see his son over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. It's
tough
crazy,
tough
man.
moment for me.
Yeah, God. I mean, I can imagine because you're so much about family, from your parents to your brothers to your own boys, and obviously your wife. And um, I know you told me the story, like, because the English press can be brutal. And you said, like, I met Alex Ferguson one time, like right when you got there. Um, tell that story, like, you just, because here you are,
Yeah,
maybe the greatest coach of all time, certainly in the conversation, regardless of sport.
yeah. I when I got there, it was a Champions League match against I think it was Young Boys, and I'm up in the director's box and just needed to. I think it was a day or so. I needed to be in a quarantine, not around the team,
Hmm.
per the protocol.
Hmm.
So I got escorted to the director's box, and I sat with Ralph Rangnick's, partner, Floor,
Hmm.
women. I'm at her table and a friend of hers, and I met them for the first time, and I was going to just watch the game from up there, and um, one of the waiters came over and said to Floor, Ralph's partner, Sir Alex,
Hmm.
was going to say hello to Ralph in a little while too, but wanted to meet you, Floor,
Hmm. Hmm.
and do you mind coming? So she said, of course. So she stands up, she brings her friend, and I wasn't invited to the press box with this Sir Alex to meet Sir
Yeah.
Alex. She says, come on. I said, it's okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, come on. And I declined again. And she says, you have to go. We're not going without you. So I stand up. The manager's wife is asking me to go. I got to go.
Yeah.
So we went in. I thought it was going to be Sir Alex, but we walk in a press box, and there might be 12 people sitting in the perimeter of the room.
Hmm.
And right away, I realized I thought I shouldn't be there in the first place. I just stopped when she got in the room, and she went
Hmm.
around and said hello to everyone. And I was standing there, and then the first gentleman just said, "Hey, come on over here." And I just went around the room, and the
Hmm.
last person that I had met was Sir Alex.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm Chris Armas. I'm so honored to meet you, and I've read the books. I've listened to everything that you've done. I mean, you have no idea how much I've tried to model my leadership after you, and the way my team is fight. I mean, and he said, "Okay, I know who you are." And he mentioned Ron Stern, a guy back in Chicago, that like
Hmm.
a friend of Lee Stern, a guy that when
Hmm.
he was for the summer tour that
Hmm.
Manchester would come over, they would spend some time, and we had a like friend, and I just had said, "Listen, I just want to tell you, I'm here to help Ralph, and I'm going to do everything every single day to honor the work you've done and to just give everything to." And he shook my hand, and that was kind of it was a really nice what a moment for me, honestly, to meet him,
Hmm.
a legend, but someone that I've really looked up to.
Yeah.
Fast forward, it might have been like at the end of my tenure, it might have been 7 months later,
Yeah.
something comes out. I mean, we're in sixth place, fighting for fourth, actually, with
Hmm.
teams doing all right. And, again, the American, and you have Ted Lasso, this show is going on. And some of the stuff that came out, Ted Lasso, not in a great way, too. It's almost like
Hmm.
poking more fun than that's what it felt like. But
Hmm.
one thing came out that said, yeah, Sir Alex, when he met Chris Armas, Chris Armas spewed his resume, talked about all of his accomplishments um, to Sir Alex, and Sir Alex, gave him a hand like, hey, you're gonna have to do better than that, son. It was something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the most ridiculous, fabricated thing that
Yeah.
nowadays it's not even journalism. It seems you could just say whatever, just say
Just say whatever
whatever
and see what
as
sells papers.
ridiculous as it can. Yeah, like people,
Yeah.
right? There's the American, and this is what I mean. Listen, I'm always focusing on the truth, and it was a
Yeah.
great moment for me to meet him.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it was. But this is what happened after like
Yeah.
months later.
It's just so funny because when I read that story months later, I'm like that sounds like the last thing Chris would ever say to anyone. Like especially to Alex Ferguson, like knowing your humility and everything like that. So it was
I wouldn't say it to anyone. Those words don't come out of my mouth.
yeah.
I don't. I'm almost sometimes not embarrassed, but with the spotlight, or if you do something really with the Hall of Fame, yet it's
Yeah.
again, I was willing to miss that event at one point if I didn't think I could make the game. So no,
Yeah.
that's certainly not me. And at the time, I mean, it was when those comments were coming out. I mean, we lost the game at Arsenal at one point, fighting for fourth place, and
Mhm.
we know in the end sixth place at that time, real time. Ralph, myself, we knew it was a good job being done. It
Yeah.
was it was a good team, very talented, but the Premier League is tough. It's difficult.
Yeah.
There's no easy fixtures, and we knew that there was good work being done.
Yeah.
And okay, if it was Europa League, that's what it is. And when Ralph left, things took a hit for a little while. I think and, he got criticized for saying some of the things he did. This needs more of
Heart
like an open
surgery,
heart
open heart
surgery,
surgery. Yeah, yeah.
and it needs 8 or 9 changes. And he was probably right. And people said that later on.
Well, I feel like he was certainly the work you guys did there was vindicated by subsequent results, number one, and number two, the work that he did at Austria, right? And like, oh, he is a good coach, and he is,
Yeah.
that. What was well, I'll leave the Ted Lasso thing for a second because I think I want to come back to that. But just, you're there and you've got Cristiano Ronaldo again in the conversation for the best player ever, right? You've got Paul Pogba, Bruno Fernandes. You've got these phenomenal players. I mean, that's a whole different stepping out on the field with them. But what's interesting is like these are people like they're human beings. Sometimes we treat them like they're these bulletproof robots that just play football, right? But like the criticism hurts. they struggle with the mental game. They want to know how to get better. They want to know that you're going to make them better. How do you connect with people like that so that they are like, all right, Chris is in it for me?
Well, you have to be for me. The only way I know, and then put it to work there, especially, is to be authentic. It has to be real because the sharper people are, and those players, yes, they're people, but they're very sharp,
Hmm.
and they know what good training looks like. They know when you the more you speak, the more you reveal who you are and what you know. So
Hmm.
if you're presenting a video, or if you're just having a conversation, uh, or if you're running an exercise and just explaining and articulating the simple rules of the a rondo or something, they will know. And I'll tell you what, that was a good thing for me because, let's call it match day plus one. It's pouring rain out, and it's Matic, it's Juan Mata, it could be Paul Pogba, these Victor Lindelof on certain days. I mean, these are top professionals. And when they walked out there and everything's ready to go and it's competitive and it's put together and they're loving life, and they Harry Maguire would say, "Chrissy, well done, great session." I knew that
This is
I'm
like
being,
sometimes the guys who didn't play a lot of minutes
yeah,
the day before,
exactly,
right? So you got to put them through a really good session. They're
right.
already sort of like, I didn't play against Arsenal. I didn't play that. And so it's like that session has to be good. And it's got to be like, hey, this is getting you ready so that you can play the next game.
Again, if yes, exactly. Again, it's the morning after. It's a match day plus one, and a lot of guys that these are world class superstars that didn't play, and now you're going to put something together. And if you don't get that stuff right, for me, you lose all the respect at all.
Mm-hmm.
So staying after with those guys after the training, investing myself every day in just trying to deliver what they need. That's ultimately how you gain respect. You just try to give them what they need, prepare them for the weekend, understand from an emotional standpoint the Paul Pogba who's coming off an injury, Eddie Cavani that's not playing as much. It could be Eric Bailly
Hmm.
who's giving me a big hug every like
Hmm.
it was each way you looked is it's staying after training on some stuff. It's Scott McTominay doing some work for as a central midfielder into small goals.
Hmm.
It's those match day plus ones that you can earn it honestly by just delivering good work. And when I left there, believe it or not, I'll tell you what, I went to Leeds United to join Jesse Marsh,
Hmm.
and the sporting director Victor Orta, when he called me and I was in New York, and this was might have been months later, but he had said to me, "You know what? I'll always remember, Chris, is Juan Mata, who
Hmm.
also from Spain, like Victor, who he asked about me. So
Hmm.
Victor, sporting director at Leeds United, speaks to Juan Mata, one of those guys that hadn't been playing that much, but
Hmm.
we had lots of conversation, lots of those training sessions that really showing him the football part of things a bit, just
Hmm.
training and also the love, to
Hmm.
show these guys, I know where you're at, man. I know this is difficult for you. Um, but when Juan Mata tells Victor, if you can hire Chris Armas, you should do it in a heartbeat. He's a great coach and he's an amazing human being.
Hmm.
This who knows if that I'm not doing that to ever get that reward, but that was
Yeah.
a reward for me that not to get another job, but to that you've earned the respect from a
Well,
guy like that,
it's
one of the
valid.
greatest.
It's validation of who you are and how you go about things, right? So it's just validation of the work you've done to do that. And I think, obviously the difference between coaching in Major League Soccer and coaching at Manchester United is the seven guys left on the bench at Manchester United and the 4 to 6 to 8 left out of the first team squad are all full internationals, right? They're all playing in World Cups. They're playing for England. They're playing for Spain. They're, whatever. And so I mean, really, so much of it at that level is human relationships and man management, isn't it? I mean, the tactics, yes, you have
Yeah.
your tactics and the way to play and you give them solutions. But ultimately, it's like there's 11 happy guys and 15 pissed off guys. How do you manage that?
It's difficult. You know what I'd say. You know, Ralph. One of the things I learned over there from Ralph Rangnick, one, how he dealt with the media. I thought he was honestly very clever and smart, and I learned a lot the way he dealt with media. But I learned how his man management, the way he spoke to players, the way he managed that part of things through a conversation with a Cristiano or a Harry Maguire if he's not playing him one game. Uh, those aren't easy conversations, but they're necessary, and not only necessary, but I think you can gain respect, lose respect with players at any level, but especially there if you don't have those conversations, and if you choose to have it, that you do it in the right way. You're not sugarcoating it. You're being honest. Not a ton of words, but it comes with a little bit of feel. And Ralph was great at this, and because I think he had an easy time telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And as a player myself once, I think that's what players want, the truth. So yeah, this was tricky, like with all these big names. And I would have a lot of these conversations with, again, Juan Mata, even with Bruno Fernandez. Me and Bruno and Juan might be walking back from a training session because those guys were very close, and just
Mm-hmm.
saying, listen, I'll talk to Ralph about this or that, and for Juan, let's say. But
Mm-hmm.
Paul Pogba coming off an injury and just trying to get himself going, I'm like, and you're just having a little conversation. These guys, they are human beings, and again, just investing yourself in the football, but also the person behind it, because they all of those, each guy, Cristiano to Bruno to Diego Dalot,
Mm-hmm.
they're all they all, you can see the 10-year-old self in all of them. They all are these competitive guys that love to play. They're so intelligent that the tactics are almost easy. If Ralph says, "Okay, we're going to defend in a 4-4-2, Cristiano, you're and Bruno together," they pick that up easily.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's the other part that's amazing with these guys is the competitiveness, uh, the level of the desire to win
Mm-hmm.
is incredible, and it's really the man manager at that point to
Mm-hmm.
not overdo tactics. This is not what's going to help the team more than the togetherness, the spirit, getting the training right, and that's what I thought Ralph did a really nice job with.
Yeah. And it's just again these human beings that are human and they have spouses or children or significant others and parents and all these outside influences, oftentimes telling them you should be starting, you should be playing. And then as the assistant manager, like usually they come to you. And that's a hard role sometimes is you have to be a truth teller, right? You got to cement. We had Steve Kerr's assistant at Golden State, Ron Adams, said, "Great assistant cements the cracks." Right? What are the things not that the head guy can't do, and I kind of cement the cracks. But you have to be a truth teller. So when you're doing that extra work, to be like, "Hey, this is why you're not in the team. This is what you can work every day to be in the team, and your moment will come." Right? You're Paul Pogba, come back from an injury. Your moment's going to come, right? You just got to be ready for it. It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, listen, I think as a coach, and of course an assistant coach, but a head coach, assistant coach, depending the role that you have, some head coaches do a little bit more of that, some do less and put it on their assistants. In both roles, I'm really tuned into the human being, the emotional intelligence. For me, it makes all the difficult decisions easier. It's never easy. After losing games, the worst part for me, whether you're a college coach or a professional coach at Colorado Rapids or Manchester United, is taking minutes from guys.
Mm.
Right? You're relying on that 15 or 16 guys to influence the day, but there's so many players that invest so much Monday through Friday, month to month, that they don't get that reward. And just being tuned into them. So it's the first person, last person on your roster, letting them feel that they're part of it, that they make a difference. They're needed. They're much part of this as anyone else. Not easy, but this takes energy from a coach. But it takes it's some have the gift of patience and this quality to recognize this, but it takes effort. A lot of coaches don't do it. For me, I did it over there in Manchester to have those conversations with, again, an Eric Bailly who came every day and trained properly and trained hard and wasn't getting all the minutes. And, it's again, if you can't go against the manager, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's got to be aligned with, for me, with the
Mm-hmm.
head coach. So, I say, listen, you're training well. Think about this. A couple of things. I always would suggest if you get to a point you want to speak to Ralph, it might go a long way. If you knock
Mm-hmm.
on his door, he would love to talk to you. You should talk to him and see what he says about some of this. Um, so yeah, I understood my place, but I was like not to over give the information, but to always be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a bunch of those conversations, and I was really tuned in. Even with Harry Maguire at one stage, I mean, he's getting criticized for something like, and I'd walk out, I'd find players to walk out with every day, different guys, and just catch up. It could be a
Mm-hmm.
Cristiano about what he's doing on the break coming up. It could be, with Harry, just telling him what a pro. I mean, I've been around a lot of different pros and good ones. The way he showed up every day, he would take some criticism, but he trained properly, loved the team, gave everything to the team every day. I mean, the ultimate team guy, but at that stage was getting some criticism. And I said, man, how you show up every day, how do you do this? How do you quiet that noise, man? And he just shared some of those thoughts, but
What
regardless,
did he
10
say,
minutes.
if you can
Yeah, I
share?
think that day, he focused. He says, "I focus on what's in front of me. What the things I can control. That's
Mm-hmm.
it." And it was pretty quick. But he says, "I don't pay attention to it. I know I'm a great player." So he was just so mature. Um, but he just gave me a hug. He's like this, and I'm a shorter guy, and he just gives me a hug, and it's like a 2-minute walk out to the pitch. And but he just says, "Yeah, I don't." But he also acknowledged the appreciation for kind of mentioning that. I don't think a lot of people will go up to him and say, "Hey, I really admire the way you've handled some of this stuff." So yeah, it's
Well, I mean,
interesting.
so much of coaching in that relationship is not the formal 20-minute meeting about playing time or taxes. It's the casual conversation, the walk to training, the walk after, the little word during a rondo as guys are knocking it around and warming up, something during the cool down. Like casual conversations in coaching can be just as impactful as that 30-minute meeting, maybe even more, right?
I think so. I think so. Again, if I think when you're a coach, I think we'd like to think that we have a set of rules, and not some. You don't need a lot of rules, but maybe rules to showing up on time, certain things. But I also think the standards stay the same for everyone, right? Like there's rules and standards that um, everyone can adhere to. However, I do believe that each guy needs to be coached a little bit differently. That's just my philosophy. Because when you get to know that individual, then you have a decision to make. Well, I don't really care that he's sensitive. I'm coming strong, or
Mhm.
I need this guy needs a little boot, but I'm not going to give it because I don't want to raise my tone. So for me, getting to know the players, getting to know what makes them tick, uh, it's not always what's good for the team or good for me. It's what's good for the player. Sometimes, how does um, a lot of times this idea of how do they want to be coached? Does people ask themselves how do they want to be coached? How do
Mhm.
they want to be spoken to? What do they need at
Yeah.
halftime or these time? We've spoken to some of this stuff, but
Yeah.
I often will go that route to learn the player, what's inside of his heart, what makes him go, what bothers him, how what makes him respond, what
Mhm.
doesn't he like.
Mhm.
And you can see this in whether it's why I cold call in team meetings sometimes. I'll call on different guys just to see. Sometimes I want to get them a little uncomfortable, but to engage a room, help the leadership. But and some guys I leave alone in those moments. I know they're not embarrassed. They just don't really enjoy. So I stay away. And when it comes down to feedback and just coaching, I don't know anyone wants to be yelled at or embarrassed. And a lot of coaches, I think, coach with frustration and coach with their own emotion that it's out of control. So for me, again, the way I with my own children, I think the truth is important. Accountability is important. I liked it when I was a player. I never enjoyed the coaches that come in and say, "We got to play better. we're all not doing this. Like, I would say, coach, come on, why don't you just say it? There's three guys cheating over there. Why don't you say that? So for me,
Don't talk to all
I,
of us. Point out the
it's
yeah.
my philosophy. It's I think it's, if they know that you love them, and I do, I love my players.
Mhm.
If they know that you love them and you care about them, and ultimately that you're always trying to help them be better, and they know that you're always looking after the human being inside, then why wouldn't they accept the truth, right? So the truth delivered in the right way doesn't mean I don't think you can't have a go at sometimes. I think it's important to just
Yeah.
get it done. Essentially, if you think you need to come strong, I'm not afraid to do it. But honesty and accountability for me is the key that the players want, and that's at Manchester. It's when I coached at Adelphi and with the women's team. And I just think, again, if you're at Manchester, if you're going to talk to Cristiano Ronaldo, you
Yeah.
got to be mindful of what you're going to say, because he'll look at you like, I remember we were doing some set pieces, and it's the last thing in the world he wanted to be doing at the time. It's at the end of a training session, and some of the free corner kicks are going way over it, and I'm just in a yellow bib marking, and Eric Ramsey is the set piece coach, and he says, we should go inside. If I were a coach, we would just go inside. And he said it a few times. Now he's looking at me. I'm like, what? Listen, if you were the coach, you'd probably do it until you got it right. I know you. And he's, I'm never going to coach. It's a joke, but we would have good banter with all those guys. And they're human beings. That, some of that tedious stuff. Some of the greatest in the world. He's just gonna say, just don't worry, coach. When the game comes, I'm going to show you. I'll do it. This is how
Yeah.
he would think. But yeah, it was an amazing experience over there, and just learning all the different management ways.
Yeah.
Learned a
Well,
lot.
I think you said so much there that I just want to highlight. Like, number one, you coach a person, not a soccer player, not a footballer, right? And every person needs something different. Number two, especially what you're doing, you're coaching adults, you're coaching, in your case, men, right? Don't yell at me. Talk to me. Teach me, right? Right? Respect me, right? And I'll respect you. And I think number three, in this transitional generation, we had this woman, Betsy Butterick, on the podcast who was talking about, think about Gen Z, right? So these are your, young 20-year-olds, right? They want your kids, right? Your kids are exactly that age. My kids are that age. When they want an answer, they just Google it, right? The answers are all at that there. So what she said to me, which I thought about a lot, is like, as the coach, when the player's questioning you, you're just Google. And they're so used to Googling it, it's not disrespectful that they're asking you. They're just looking for an answer. So if you stop
Right.
feeling like, oh, they're disrespecting me, and it's just they've grown up in a world where they can always just look up the answer. And right now in practice, you're Google. It's not disrespectful. They just want a little more explanation. It's a really interesting sort of lens to look at it through, you know?
Yeah. It's so true. I went to my son. My son Chris has just turned 24 years old, and he coaches in Westchester Soccer Club, and a U12s, 12-year-olds, and then another team 13s. And I helped run the trainings last night, and we had so much fun with these kids. I mean, they're great players. Watching my son coach, and it was really cool. But a few moments, like you said, I would just grab a guy and give him a hug and say, "Listen, what a player you are," and you see his face would light up, and they know I was a professional coach, but they quickly realized I'm just here to help them, and we have a great time with the game. But just a couple of little side conversations with kids I never met before,
Mhm.
seeing their faces light up. They didn't want to leave without saying goodbye and shake your hand, and you can see even that you can connect with them so quickly because
Mhm.
they're open, hungry.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's an example of just connecting with the human being, and just talking to. Once they realize you care about them, man, it almost seems so easy to get more out of them.
Yeah, no, it does. And I think those are the paychecks, right? You get the paychecks that pay the bills, but the thing that keeps you coming back and gives you the passion for coaching is that. The last piece I want to say, and we can then kind of jump to the US, is like, you said I have a lot of love in my coaching. And it's funny, that's when they asked John Wooden when he retired, what was your secret? He said, I had a lot of love in my coaching. Love my players. That's the key. And we had this guy on the podcast who was writing a book. John Wooden had his pyramid of success for a player, and so they
Right.
they asked him to do a pyramid of success for coaches. And my friend Wade Gilbert was one of the co-authors. And so the cornerstone was love. And the publishers came back to John Wooden and said, we can't use the word love. It's creepy. It's whatever. Take it out. And John Wooden said, take my name off the book. Take my name. I'm not
Yeah.
doing it then. Right. Like,
Yeah.
because that's the key. And tie this into the, Ted Lasso nonsense of like, why do we live in a sports world where we think if you love your players and you care about them and you respect them, that's like a bad thing, right? We still are sometimes, especially the media likes to be stuck in the world of, um, you know, if if you're loving and caring and invest in your players and they lose, it's your fault, you're soft. And if you're coached through fear and intimidation and scare people and you lose, it's just the players are soft, it's their fault, right? And it's kind of sad, and I think it's shifting because we have high profile coaches who are talking about this more. But so when I think of like Ted Lasso, it's like, why do we think that people perform better if we make them feel worse? No, make them feel better about themselves, about their role, about their contribution. That's when they perform their best. And I think that's where you coach from. And so it's like Ted Lasso is this English media insult, but I think it's like a great compliment. Like, yeah, I hope so. I hope that's what people think of me.
Yeah, listen, the way the context it's just at that time it looked like there was some blame looking to put. Why not blame the American? That's kind of how it came at that stage of
Yeah.
the season. But yeah, listen, there's so many different ways to coach and to lead and to run a household, to parent. What kind of friend are you? I am a I'm a the way I'd say it is I'm someone that I have passion, and I thankfully I have competition in my blood. Somehow I learned this, um, but I don't know where it came from. And of course, my parents, the to consider other people. Either you do or you don't. And for me, um, you know, some people might say, "Oh," and I've been told this. Chris is too nice. And then I listened to a podcast and the difference between being nice and being kind.
Hmm.
And I'd much rather I don't think it's a question. Of course, is it the same thing? But the difference explained was if you're kind, yeah, you consider other people, but you're not afraid to give honesty and accountability. Is it has to you can still be kind
Right.
and give the truth and think about how that person feels.
Yeah.
And I have this. I have this inside where I'm not just a nice guy say, hey, good job if it's not a nice job.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like so
Or show up late or don't meet the standard or whatever.
no,
That's
it's
being nice because I want to be friends instead of I'll be
right.
kind and respected.
Hence along the way in my career, along the way in my life, people keep my number and they reach out. Where I just was in Colorado, I left that team and city and the security guards, the chefs, the people in the performance and medical department, the entire extension of the club, the fan base, a couple that had my number for different reasons, they reach out, and I know it's because of the way they felt.
Hmm.
There wasn't a day I would not walk by an office and say hello to someone, or stop by at the end of a long day and hang out with the security guards for a few minutes, or make sure I was leaving them tickets for a game
Yeah.
on a day when I'm scrambling a little bit. But no, you know what? It's going to mean a lot to that person. So yeah, it's easy to just say that about someone. They're nice or too nice, but uh, there's a reason why most people are not kind. Just going out of their way, being really really deliberate, because most people are just not inherently givers and really thrive by giving
Yeah.
instead of just taking. So yeah, yeah, John, that's been my philosophy and style of leadership and how I live my life. But it is all about how I make that other person feel. If it's my son, if it's that kid last night at training that I never met, or it's a player of mine, there's always going to be an end goal. If I'm coaching, we're going to try to give the information and articulate what we're trying to do, create clarity. But I think you can do it in for me the right way, which is connect with the human being. and then everything's possible.
Yeah, and love is telling the truth. Love is being demanding but not demeaning. Love is um saying, good, now do more, now do better. Love is giving and kindness is taking into someone's emotional state when you're giving them maybe some critical feedback. That's love, right? They say about Greg Popovich, the San Antonio Spurs, coach. They said, he tells you the truth and he loves you to death. Um, and I think that's it right there. And you'd see Pop on the sideline turning red and yelling and screaming, but what we didn't see is the 99% of coaching, which was the casual conversations, the interactions, the showing up at people's doors. I heard, I forget who it was, center back at Real Madrid, Rudiger, right, who went from Chelsea. And he said he got there and was just getting settled into his house, and all of a sudden Carlo Ancelotti showed up at the front door with a bottle of wine and like, let's have dinner, you know? And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, sweet, And it's like, that's it. That's where it happens, right?
Yeah, it's just there's so many little examples of this, and it's if you just taking a little bit of time for me to go the extra distance to write a handwritten note to someone that's
Mhm.
having a tough time. It could be a player that shows up in his locker, someone that had a baby, that the wife had a baby, a text message on a day off when it's a player's having a tough moment, um, a FaceTime call on a random when I just called
Hmm.
Moise Bombito, and it's
Because he just broke his leg. Yeah.
yeah, and
Right.
it might be he just woke up and it's a FaceTime. He's like, Coach, I'm like, I'm surprised you answered my call. He's like, catching up with this is for me. Yeah, just something I again, I at 53 years old, I hope I live a long life. I don't take any day for granted. So the last few years when my dad passed away, it gave me a certain perspective. Not that I never appreciated things. I always have real time, but I uh, I just have a more increased attention to this detail and how I want to leave my mark behind
Yeah.
on people and how to influence when it's all said and done.
Yeah. No, amen to that, man. Let's shift and talk about your time in Colorado. When you got the job, I was like so happy. Like, okay, here's like a team that Chris can mold in his image. They're young. It's not huge salaries. Like, hopefully, it's young, hungry players. You bring in some guys back from Europe who maybe want to get back in the national team fold or whatever. And your first year, I mean, you make the League's Cup final, qualify the team for Champions League, you know, playoff run, everything. And you were a finalist for Coach of the Year. I was like so happy for you. Like finally, I've gotten the chance to see it through and talk about that season. Even losing Bombito partway through when they sold him when he went to France, I think.
Yeah, that made it tough for us down the stretch a bit. Just he was such a presence in the middle of the defense, but we were grateful to listen for the time with him.
Yeah.
He's a gem. But yeah, look, it was I'd say a dream season in many ways. We would have liked to finish even stronger, but I think when you're a coach and you want to influence and you want to help players grow, if that's ultimately to help each individual become the best version of themselves, and then of course, how does that fit into a team and their role, and then how can you get a team firing on all cylinders and then create an environment that lets it all be possible. This is what we did, and the results were strong, and it meant that we were in last place the year before. I was proud that we brought the team back to the playoffs. It was great. You saw
Yeah.
more for me an engaged fan base.
Yeah.
That when I met them day one, I had asked. They weren't so happy when I arrived. They probably looking
Hmm.
for a different type of name, but I asked to meet with the supporters straight away, and we met in a pub, and I, in a humble way, asked what do they want, and
Hmm.
they told me they wanted a team that always acknowledge them, win, lose, or draw. The team right now doesn't. They don't clap or this or that, and we want a team that always acknowledges us and that never quits.
Hmm.
I said, done. You will get that, but please give me some time. And
Hmm.
but I started by asking them what's important for them, and the
which
team
they've
did
probably
that.
never been asked before in franchise history,
Maybe.
or at least not in a long time.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of skepticism in the crowd a little bit, but um, a couple of years later, I have a lot of friends there, the fan base, because we delivered that
Yeah,
home, away. Sometimes the players might need a reminder, like, "Hey, next time, guys, I don't want to see that." But the players would acknowledge the fans and put the ego aside at times, and making sure they went around and signed autographs and acknowledged the fans, no matter what. Because I said, "Hey, I'm going on those losing days. I go even closer, guys. Go closer. Don't
yeah.
shy away from it. They love it. They still love you guys, and
Hmm.
they might feel embarrassed or a little bit down. But yeah, we put out that team that never quit. We had a lot of late goals that year, big comebacks, big performances. We won the Rocky Mountain Cup, which is the
Yeah,
the rivalry with our Real Salt Lake.
yeah,
We took that back for the first time in years. Again, the playoffs, and as you mentioned, the Leagues Cup run, beating
yeah,
four Mexican teams. It was historic,
yeah.
honestly. And then yeah, so it was an amazing 2024.
Yeah, and then this year, right? A tougher year, and again, then you have the extra games and the stuff, on your roster, and trying to, manage players and do that. And yet still, I think you were in seventh in a good playoff position, and then the team makes the decision to sell Georgi Mihailovic, right? You've built your team around. He's taken your set pieces. He's the biggest offensive contributor. And like, how do you deal with that as a coach? Because you still got to put a team on the field the next day. And I got to imagine in the locker room, people are like, wait, what are we doing? Like, well, what's happening here? Did we just cash in the season?
Well, if you yeah, before that, what I'd say if you just talked about this year to last year,
Yeah.
the whole conference was tighter, less points earned by Everett. It was so much tighter this year,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we ended up finishing in a three-way tie for ninth
Right.
with Salt Lake. I forget who else.
It was San Jose and
Oh,
Salt
San
Lake.
Jose.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then a few more teams above us on 44 points. We're all three teams on 41. We lost on a tiebreaker. It
Right. And
was just
you
tight.
had LA Galaxy, who was the champions last year, finished last, right? Like,
They were
or
in. They were
at
closer
least
to the
right till
bottom.
the end.
They
Yeah.
had a good second half of the year, but
Yeah.
yeah, they had a hard year.
Yeah.
But it was just a tough conference. Teams
Yeah.
invested more. Austin's, Dallas. It was tight. And this year we didn't have some of the late magic.
Yeah.
Last year we had a lot of 18 points or so from losing positions. It's a
Hmm.
massive number. I think it was the
Hmm.
highest in MLS, or second to Miami.
Hmm.
This year we didn't. We lost points from winning positions.
Hmm.
We had some tough. That's sometimes that's normal, but we didn't have that late magic. This type
Hmm.
of stuff, and that accounts for some points. Things are tougher in the league. We're not sneaking up on anyone. We're not the last place team sneaking up and pressing and catching people off guard. We had to earn everything, and we were right there.
Yeah.
Um, and in fact, like the Seattle's teams that made the playoffs. You want to talk about teams that made the playoffs? LAFC. They had a hard time beating us this year. And
Hmm.
then on this decision day, we were winning 2-1 in the 90th, and we gave up a late goal.
Yeah.
Seattle couldn't beat us. We drew them twice. Minnesota, Houston, we took 4 points from each.
Yeah.
So we actually, for me, we're clear on the identity, on the principles. We just again, like you mentioned, seventh place going into the Philadelphia game, which
Hmm.
was, I believe, the 10th game before the end of the year.
Hmm.
That's when Mihailovic, there was some rumblings. He gets sold, I believe, with 9 games to go. We're in seventh or eighth, and listen, we were right there on the last day. That's
Hmm.
what I'd say. When you lose your best player, life gets harder. That's
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
It's if I keep saying that, it would honestly, for me, sound like an excuse, because we have to figure that out. One guy is not going to drive this whole thing, but he was our best player. He led the team, set a club record quickly in goal contributions in a year and a half.
Hmm.
Yes, so scoring goals became harder. Our other DP, Rafa Navarro, started producing less.
Hmm.
Our offense down the stretch in the most decisive games, it just became harder.
Yeah.
And no one would, I don't think anyone would argue that, right? Your best
Yeah.
player's gone. Yeah, it's going to be harder now.
Yeah.
We ended up getting Paxton Aronson. I don't know, it was a month later or so, but we were stressed. The team does come in and look like what's going on here,
Yeah.
but as real as I could be, and which was truthful, is guys, it's next man up. We're not going to focus on what we don't have. We got
Yeah.
to focus on what's left and right of you and across from you. We have enough. We're going to make it to the playoffs. And
Hmm.
of course, again, 5 minutes away on decision day, we're in the postseason, and LAFC scored at the buzzer. So
Right.
we were right there. But yeah, things were stressed a bit for the team without Georgie.
Yeah. And it's just such a hard thing. And it was interesting because at the end, when they decided not to, give you a new contract, I was, usually when a coach leaves, right? Most of the fan response, and obviously social media is the way that happens today, is like, all right, good, we're making the change. It was like 95%, what the hell are we doing? Right. And I think the people who are the true fans are looking at it like, wait a sec, if we really want to be a consistent playoff team, selling our best players every year is down the stretch is not what's getting us there, right? And so that's a hard thing as a coach to, I think, to keep that locker room together and united and next man up, because deep down too, it's like, yeah, but there is no Georgie sitting there waiting to jump in the game, right?
Yeah, listen, it's
It's hard.
it's with the it's always it's without going into all the details.
Yeah,
You know, there was likely to be an extension. I was offered an extension from
yeah,
the Rapids, and it started back in April of this year.
yeah,
And like any negotiation, it just took some time, and yeah, it didn't move very quickly. And at some stage now, we're in the playoff mix, and we just talked about, hey, I'm gonna let's keep. I said let's focus on. I kept focusing on, and this is what was communicated.
mhm,
The club wants me here, and I want to be here. Let's focus all the emotional energy from me on the playoffs. Like,
mhm,
this is a tough time. Me me getting caught up in a contract negotiation with Chris Armas and his family. Yes, some might say that's what you should do. Look out for yourself. I didn't. Honestly, it was all about the team and trying to get the team over the hump, and we were right there in the end. I promise
yeah,
you. So after the season, it didn't take long, but the negotiations
yeah,
didn't start up again. The club
yeah,
called me and decided to move on, which
yeah,
was for me surprising in the end,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I've never not taken a job for money. And yeah, of course, I wanted to continue the work. That's all. I mean, I love coaching. I loved what we were building. The culture was strong. The locker room is strong. It's now ready to add a few pieces. It's right there. We have some money to spend with some TAM in the league and
hmm,
GAM funds. We have money to spend. The roster is strong. Again, the culture is as strong as it's probably been in a long time.
hmm,
Um, we're right there with the very best in our conference,
hmm,
battling with all the teams in and around us and below us. Those
hmm,
games are oftentimes harder. The
yeah,
teams below you, right? Those are not easy games. And what I would say is, maybe most importantly, our fans were happy. The fans, you can see them when you go around. If they were showing up, the building was sold out on the last day, and honestly, it was. I remind the players why we do this. It's not.
yeah,
It's not just a saying or a cheesy. If the fans don't show up, we don't have jobs. So
hmm,
if the fan base are showing up and they're happy and they're into it and they love the way the team plays, a team that doesn't give in, a team that acknowledges them, yeah, this is a good thing. And
hmm,
and wanting to continue that journey with again with the Paxton Aronsons and these types of guys, this was a this was disappointing in the end, honestly. But the club made a decision, and I accept it.
yeah. Well, when I talked to you, you were just like, it's sort of like, okay, next thing up, right? Like, your optimism came out. Like, it's allowed to hurt and it's allowed to be sad and it's disappointing because, you said to me, you're like, there's 2 years of getting it to a place where now we're ready to take the leap. And now in the next job, I've got to start that again, right? You got to start that again. And
Yeah.
that's a hard thing to like be like, oh, just not quite there. And it's been good with what we have and the resources and everything. But you also said, man, I'm passionate. I want to do this again. Like I can't wait for the next challenge. And I hope, I mean, I got to think that people who know the inside of the league are like, what you did resource wise and the player support and the fan support. Got to think that's what every club wants. Who can maximize our resources, get the fans on board, get the security guards like excited. They're like that. This is a quality human being who treats everyone well. I mean, I think the people who know
Yeah.
should know.
I think so. People inside MLS, they know. For me, I think I can deliver and I'm proven now to deliver something very specific. A team that plays a certain way, front
Mhm.
foot football, like attack-minded football,
Mhm.
all about togetherness, especially a way of playing that's
Mhm.
has intensity at the core of everything.
Yeah.
Um, and we were able to do that in Colorado. And even though we were building the roster and the strategy, we're still building over there. A few more pieces, you can even play with more intensity. That's
Mhm.
against the ball with more pressing and more effective pressing, more
Mhm.
ball recoveries, and even with the ball to play with more tempo and verticality the way we want to play. We add a few pieces. So that part of things, able to reestablish a culture, that the
Mhm.
culture of togetherness and the people,
Mhm.
um, really inspire a fan base. That's
Yeah.
that's got to be at the core. We I think we were able to do that. Um, Working with young players and development. This is a big thing that we sold two players in a year,
Mhm.
Bombito and Georgie, a year apart, and there was even interest in Rafa Navarro. So it could have been three players in a year, 8-9 million a piece. This is something I pride myself, me and the staff, to work and have patience and understand how to work with young players, but to give them a chance, of course.
Mhm.
So yeah, listen, I'm hungry to coach. I love the MLS is the league I've had, for the beginning from 96 and as a player to now and passing it on, but really building something and putting a stamp on something is what I crave. And
Mhm.
I have more confidence after these 2 years that I can do that because I just
Mhm.
did it. And
Mhm.
some could say, yeah, but you finished in ninth place. And I'd say, yeah, we finished in ninth place. We're right there. We're in the mix. That's probably where we're going to be. On some years, maybe that's a fifth or sixth, maybe even more. A dream run, a few pieces we can push for the league at some stage, but we weren't there yet. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm proud of the work that was built there, John, and what we leave behind is I think something very credible that can't
Yeah.
be undone right now. We can't
Yeah.
undo the work we did. We did good work there. I'm proud of it.
Well, I think you're what I've always loved about you is you're like you like your self-awareness as a coach. I did this ice hockey event in France, and one of the researchers was talking about coaching effectiveness, right? And it's not just knowledge of sport; it's interpersonal skills and intrapersonal, like knowing yourself. And I think one of the things that you have all like you know who you are, you know what you value. You want to play a certain way, but really you want to be a certain way, and you want your teams to be a certain way, and you've stuck to that. And I think that's a really important thing because if you give that up and you get fired, then you have nothing. But, you when you hold on to your, that sort of my humanity and this is what gives me energy, this is what makes me get up out of bed and be the first one in the door every morning. I think that's the most important thing, regardless of what you do, but certainly for a coach, right? That I have
Yeah.
standards, I have values. It's supposed to feel a certain way when I walk into the building. And I don't think, regardless of your job, you've ever given that up.
No, I'm more clear than ever about who I am, what the person I am, the coach I want to be, the human being I want to be. And again, it's like we said about the players at Manchester. You're not fooling them, right? They kind of know. I've been around, and I also know that
Hmm.
No one can tell me we've not done good work in Colorado. I walked in the doors at the end of 2023, and I can tell you what I saw and what I felt
Yeah.
and it's not, the previous coach, Robin Fraser, is a great coach and a
Yeah.
great human being, and he's doing good work in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
So, and he finished in first or second place in 2021. So
Yeah.
he just didn't all of a sudden become not a good coach. So certain things didn't go well that year, and I find myself in that building. However, here we are 2 years later, and almost every facet, from some of the things we've done in the building, from the pitches to some of the innovation, the style of play, the culture, connection with the fan base, all of this development, we've made it better. And that's
Mm.
ultimately what I've tried to do there, and
Mhm.
deliver excellence along the way. Um, and there was, and that is for me, not so up in the air. I think this is fact, and we did good work there, and that's
Mhm.
what I feel good about, man. I yeah, like you said, it's something when you get low, let go, or like in this case, 3 months ago, if I just say yes, I'm the coach for the next 2 years
Mhm.
in Colorado, because I
Mhm.
was offered an initial
Mhm.
amount of money.
Mhm.
The negotiation just didn't
Mhm.
ever really go anywhere. But
Mhm.
quite honestly, it's the first time in my coaching career that I was offered an extension.
Mhm.
For that, I feel good. Like,
Mhm.
and I feel terrible that it didn't work in the end.
Mhm.
But I do feel good that we've done good work. And again, like you said, it's sticking to who you are is the most important thing. That
Yeah.
win, lose, or draw, that you've remained true to yourself, to who you are, what you believe in, what you stand for. And yeah, I'm looking for the next thing. And if it happens right away, I feel like I have a full tank right now. And if I have to wait, I wait, but to find the right situation.
Well, thank you so much, for coming on and sharing this. Like so many gems. I love always the inside stories and that. But I think coaching is a relationship business, right? And it comes down to humanity. And the best coaches are the people who understand that, right? And some people can bring higher level tactics and higher level X's and O's, but if you bring all that without the human connection, it just usually doesn't work, unless you surround yourself with a bunch of assistants who give all the human connection, and you're this, tactical wizard, and that's not your role, and everyone knows that. But you know, I think again, we coach people, not robots, and people have good days and bad days. They have things that happen off the field that affect what happens on the field. They have emotions. They have the problems like everyone has. And the best coaches, and as kids change and as generations change, humanity is the future of coaching. You're right. I think that's it.
I think
The
so.
tactics will get you somewhere, but that's just the foundation. I think humanity is the future. That's what I believe. I know that's
Listen,
what Jerry believes.
John, again, if getting back to that training session last night with the 12-year-olds,
Yeah.
it was as fun as I've seen a group like this. And I remind the pros, and I ask them to remember to tap into their 11-year-old self, 10-year-old self,
Hmm.
because that guy was fearless. He loved it. He loved the concept of team. Couldn't wait to train. Didn't worry too much about yesterday or tomorrow, just in the moment. And honestly, it was such a good reminder for me. But listen, at this level, even at every level, of course, when you get to the professional level, but anything up in this tier, organization, structure, systems of play, the magnets and tactics. I think players, when you're going through that stuff, you can see their face. They're into it. They like that stuff. But that stuff, without the passion, without the connections, the interactions, I think is so short lived, and it's not standing on a strong foundation. For me, the foundation has to be at the bottom, built on the connections, the people, the emotional connection. Because when the storm comes, this I think keeps it strong. I really believe that, because they know you care, and you know you're in it together. Otherwise, you can see. players could just abandon it. They'd abandon ship and they go, "What's in it for me?" type of mentality. If they're not really engaged and connected to the guy left and right of you, and sometimes the guy across from, which is me. So
Hmm.
that's the way I see it. I think it's been the past and the future, me, but certainly moving forward, I think it's the way to go.
Well, I'll just share one story of the young Chris Armas, who I would remember in high school sitting there on our
Now
bumpy
it's
dirt
time for story time. Is this time for story time? We're gonna tell stories.
bumpy
Make
bumpy dirt field, and our soccer coach is yelling at us, and all of a sudden you'd hear a big ding as you threw a rock from midfield and hit the crossbar, and the coach would be like, Armas. so
I'm always
so
looking for a challenge. I was always looking for something to
always
challenge
looking
me
for a
there.
challenge. There was all those days, man. Well, listen,
Gosh,
thank you so much for coming on, Chris. This was such a great conversation. I think anyone listening understands where you come from, who you are, and I really think, I hope for you that the next job is the right environment, the right players, and the right amount of time. Because I think you really are like the great modern coach. And, I'm a fan of Chris, the coach, but I'm also more of a fan of Chris Armas, the human being. So thanks so much for
thank
being
you.
on the podcast, bud.
Appreciate it, John. I love you, man, like a brother. And thanks for giving me this time and to share my story for anyone listening. And maybe it even helps people with perspective and a little glimpse into professional football and just life. So appreciate it.
And life, like good luck, bad luck, who knows, right? Or
That's it.
what's good about this? Well, something good's coming your way, man. Thanks for being on.
Thank you. Appreciate it, John. Thanks, man.
Thank you all for listening. Thanks again to my lifelong friend Chris for coming on and sharing so much. I was just blown away by the conversation about the humanity of coaching, and especially his time in England and working with these huge internationals and world stars, and that it all comes down to the people. It all comes down to love. It all comes down to relationships. That's where you win it. And the good work he did in Colorado, I was obviously, from a personal level, super sad that he lost that job, or didn't get his new contract, because I think he did some amazing work there with the budget. And like I said, man, it's not often that all the fans are like, wait a second, why are we getting rid of our coach? He's doing a great job. But yeah, all that sort of stuff. And just his optimistic outlook on life of, well, when one door closes, the next one opens. So I think any coach, you're listening to this, like, connect with your people, right? Casual conversations, little quiet moments, little quick comment that lights up a kid, that lights up an adult. That's what it's all about. So yeah, thanks again to Chris. Signing off again. We still have spots open for our 2026 Way of Champions retreat and certification program. All the information for that is on changingthegameproject.com, right in the main menu, WOC certification. We sold out last year very quickly. These spots are going fast. So please, if you are interested, check out the info. We have the informational webinar posted on there where we talked about the facility and how it works. It's really a year-long program where Jerry and I and the whole cohort invest in each other. We do a lot of pre-work. We get together for 4 days and 3 nights up in the mountains of Colorado, and then we follow up for 5 months. And it's a really, really intense. There is no coaching development program like it. So whether it's something you just want to bring back to your team and your program, or it's something that you want to take out to your community and use this material and go and speak and deliver it, yeah, check it out. It's going fast, and we only do one a year, and it fills up quick. So yeah. Thanks to Sprocket Sports. Thanks to our Patreon podcast champions. And thank you to everyone who listens, who shares, who leaves us reviews. Your influence is never neutral. So go out there, change the world, make a difference. And we'll see you again next week, everybody.